getting really heated about this one because the perfectionism, it keeps us small, and this is not the time. We are not in a time of human existence where staying small is a viable option. If you have something on your heart, something that's been calling to you for a long time, and you're still giving yourself excuses that it needs to be XYZ in order for you to actually do it, or in order to put something out there, like, put that aside and just do it and continue to do it and iterate as you go. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Rituals Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about how to change your perspective in order to see life as a series of experiments. But first I want to talk a bit about why I think it's important to view life this way. We all are constantly getting little, what TBM calls pings, little hits of intuition, or what Joseph Campbell has called the call to adventure. We are all getting these little zings of those calls, those inner calls to do something, go somewhere, talk to someone. And those things are actually leading us like little breadcrumbs to where we're supposed to go and what we're supposed to do. It can be a part of the bigger picture that's essentially leading us to our heart's desire. Now, I don't know this is a fact, but this is where faith comes in. This is where faith is an essential part of having a rich soul. Faith means that, yes, we can do all of the research, all of the analysis, and all of the strategic planning in order to, forge ahead on something that's important to us. And part of having a rich soul is understanding that we can't control every single variable. In fact, we can't control most of the variables that are, in fact, going to lead us to where we want to go. That there are going to be so many twists and turns and curves, and that instead of trying to force something, we have a chance to still do our research, still do our planning, and to have a little bit of fun with it, to give a little bit of our agency away, not to anyone else, but to God. And in that, to let God surprise and delight us as our path unfolds. Now, very likely you're going to experience a ton of resistance as you start following these pings. You might feel too lazy to take that route home from work or school, or you might even have people mirror to you that you doing or fulfilling one of the calls is actually not good, or that they judge you for it. You might have your own internal fears come up about why you shouldn't be doing the things that you're feeling called to do. Take, for example, I've shared on here before that I decided to quit my corporate job. I was there for 8 years, and I was there for 8 years because I had so many dialogues that I'm still unpacking, honestly, about why it was the worst decision that I could ever make. In fact, it was upon quitting and telling my dad that I heard him mirror to me. And by him saying these exact words of, this is the worst thing that you could possibly do, is to quit your secure, stable job without a backup. And it was such a huge moment of realizing, like, that, that was a source of that narrative in my head. And it doesn't have to do with my dad, that I learned that from him, likely, because frankly, it wasn't him. We learned it also from culture and other people in my life, or, wherever else. It's not about blaming anybody. And it's about recognizing that when we are answering the call, when we're even receiving the call, we're in a direct line of communication with the divine. Something is entering our spirit and being asked of us through action, for us to fulfill an action in order to make manifest a hit of inspiration. And very likely, in fact, probably more likely than not, you're going to face a ton of resistance to that internally because of all of the programming that we have, but also externally. People aren't going to understand our paths all the time. Now, I think that if you have community around you who also kind of use this language, who also are doing the work to build a rich soul, that they'll be able to see you and be supportive to you in your pursuit of the unknown, in following these pings and answering these calls. But if you don't have that yet, just know that that's on your way as you continue to answer the calls. And also know that, again, some people will be triggered or otherwise give you some resistance from fulfilling this call, and that you'll probably experience it yourself. This doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. It just means that this is a natural part of the process and you should probably do it anyway. Because life is an experiment. It is an experiment of many experiments. It's also a game. We get to choose what we want to play and for how long we want to play it. Okay, all the mindset stuff's out of the way, and now I want to talk about specific tools that you can use in order to shift your mindset into one of viewing life as an experiment so that you can have more fun with it. Now, I'm going to be so candid that 3 of the 4 tips here are all from Tim Ferriss. He is the GOAT. If you know, you know. Many of you will know. And so these are just 3 of them, again, are going to be from him, and they're just such good ones. I don't know how often he talks about them, to be honest, anymore, but I learned them like 10 years ago, and I still implement them today. So the first one is to view life as a series of 3 to 6 month experiments. So in your goal setting, put it within a time frame or some kind of limitation in which you are saying, okay, this new thing, like me podcasting, this is going to be done over the course of 3 months. Or rather, for something like this, I would prefer to do something like, say, oh, it's going to be 11 episodes. Don't hold me to that. But it's going to be, say, 11 episodes. And then I'll reevaluate at the end of that term whether I want to continue with it. When we assign these limitations of either time or an increment of production, we create a container that tells us that we can create and experiment freely within this new thing that we want to try, and that we're not married to it. It doesn't have to become our identity. It just becomes this thing that we get to enter as a beginner, to try, to experiment with, to get data on internally, internal data on of whether we want to continue it. Number 2, practice fear setting. Another one from Tim Ferriss. So this is an exercise. I'm going to link to his fear setting video and article below or in the show notes. But Tim talks about this concept of essentially what we don't know will own us, right? So if we can outline what are the fears that are deterring us from taking an action and keeping us in a stalemate, if we can be aware of what those fears are, then we can actually really start to dismantle them and not see them as deterrents to what we want to do, but see them for what they are, which are potential pathways. So along with outlining all of our fears of behind what's keeping us from taking an action, he suggests actually coming up with a contingency plan of what we should do if those fears actually come to life. I've heard from many people that they've done this and they haven't actually even had to look to their contingency plans because everything worked out. But for those of you like me, like Tim, who lean anxious, there is a huge piece that we can find in, again, understanding what are the fears that are looping underneath our decision making and steering our decision making, and also what are those backup plans, because when we can see all of that, we can see that, oh, we can handle this. I'm going to layer another thing in here that I didn't talk about in my article, which is that you can even do not only some fear setting, but if you really have a visceral fear around taking an action, you can do a meditation or self-hypnosis. I really love To Be Magnetic for this. They even have a worst case scenario DI. They also have a driver's seat DI. They have others that are all about regulating and dropping into the fears and the origins of those fears in order to have corrective internal mental neural reprogramming healings, so that we can not only logically see what our fears are and the contingency plans for them, but that so we can find that safety also somatically through that, subconscious reprogramming process. Third and last one from Tim for at least this episode is to ask, what would this look like if it were easy? Usually when we're starting something new, we feel like it's just a whole big mountain. I actually have a project that's been weighing on me for so long. I felt the call to do it for years, and it's coming back to me now where I'm feeling very called to start this project. And when I consider it, it is something that I have no experience in that feels like such a huge, intimidating mountain to climb. And so, of course, my proclivity is to not climb it. And that's the exact kind of situation in which we can ask, okay, how can I make this look easy? So in the context of this podcast, the podcast isn't the project I'm referencing, but the podcast. Okay, it feels daunting to figure out how to post and what technology to use and what to edit with and whatever, whatever. What are people going to think? All of that stuff, right? It's like, okay, part of me getting to this point of even recording the podcast is asking myself, what would this look like if it were easy? Okay, let me talk to my friend who's an audio engineer to help build my knowledge and also quell my fears about having really bad audio visual quality. Okay, let me get a nice webcam that is going to be an easy way to up the quality of my video without actually having to get, say, a DSLR. Let me also then, to make it even easier, accept that I'm not going to have the best background right now because this is just an experiment. I don't need to make my background perfect and just continue to put off recording. I just need to record. You get what I mean, right? Like, how can we make this easy? Oftentimes, it's breaking down the tasks that we have to do into incremental tasks and just checking them off as we go. And sometimes, like in that last one I shared about podcasting, it's just being so real with ourselves that we don't have to make something perfect in order to freaking do it. I'm getting really heated about this one because the perfectionism, it keeps us small and this is not the time. We are not in a time of human existence where staying small is a viable option. If you have something on your heart, something that's been calling to you for a long time, and you're still giving yourself excuses that it needs to be XYZ in order for you to actually do it or in order to put something out there, like put that aside and just do it and continue to do it and iterate as you go. Number 4, invest in something that helps you get clear. Or another way of putting it is invest in yourself. So here's my reasoning with this one. When we are pursuing things that feel beyond us, it would be nice if we're fueled not by a motivation of potentially reaching that goal or of, whether it's money or the relationship. It's so much more sustainable to be so clear on what our motivations and drivers are in life and to create or pursue from that place. Because when we pursue from a place of understanding ourselves and why we're going after the things that we are going after, we are able to sustain that motivation, sustain the drive to continue doing the thing, continue with the experiment, even when we don't have the end result of the experiment in front of us, right? Like this podcast is my experiment. And the reason I'm doing it is because I feel called to talk. I feel called to communicate about spirituality. I feel called to serve through spirituality. I feel called to just simply do this thing that's been on my heart for so long. And that's it, right? And that ties into like something that's so authentic to me, which is like spirituality and service and visibility, being seen, belonging. Like there's so many parts of myself that get to be fulfilled through this process of this podcast. But when I say parts of self, it's our essence. So this is another tool within To Be Magnetic, TBM. I'm going to have a link to them as well. I love TBM, but in it, there's this concept of an authentic code. You can also think of it as just value pillars, and people can have 3 to 5, the systems elsewhere too. But essentially what you do is distill down what are your core motivations in life. For me, like I said, one is spirituality and service. I also have health and vitality. I have belonging and connection, and I have lifestyle design and lifestyle freedom. Okay, so I am creating this podcast that's fulfilling essentially all of those buckets in some way, shape, or form. And in doing that, I'm feeling so revved up to continue doing this thing, to continue with this experiment until the term of the experiment is over. And that's exactly why I think that we all should be doing the same thing. We should all do work on ourselves to essentially strip away at all of the programming that we learn as a child and on into adulthood that inform our identity. Because when we're stripping away those layers of our identity, we are able to get down again to what that core essence is and to move through the world from that place, to create from the world from that place, to create experiments from that place or in pursuit of fortifying that essence within us, aka pursuing what we love. Like, how are we going to know we actually love if we're just going off of what we've been told to love, versus what we actually like? Let alone, God forbid, which is so common for all of us, if we're told that what we like and love are things that are shameful or wrong, et cetera, right? So this is where that self-work really comes into play. Again, I love TBM, but there are so many other tools there that may resonate with you. There's different forms of therapy. I've heard CBT and EMDR are super effective. There's breath work, meditation, there's just time in nature, there's parts work, there's biofeedback, there's journaling, there's saunas, there are so many options. I think ultimately you do want to get to a place of feeling very regulated, of feeling safe, calm, relaxed in order to let yourself shine. But there is a point of beyond that, of beyond just the nervous system regulation, you do want to basically have a stronger self-concept. You want to know yourself, what you're interested in, what drives you, what your motivations are, why you are the way that you are, and that'll give you a lot of fuel for this engine. So those are the 4 tips that I have for you in reframing life in order to view and treat it as an experiment. If you can do these things, one or more, you're going to move the needle and do the things that are going to light you up and start to create a life that you enjoy. View life as a series of experiments. Try these tools. I promise it'll make life just more fun, and it'll take you closer to who you are and what you love to do. And I would love to hear about your experience with these frameworks if you try any of them. As always, feel free to leave some comments in the show notes or whatever the heck, I'm still figuring it out. But leave me comments wherever you're seeing this. Would love to hear from you. And with that, take care, and I will see you in the next episode.